Happy Thursday to you fellas. Dating coach, book author AlanRogerCurrie here with another YouTube video podcast. First, I want to give a note. I received at least a handful of comments from my last video podcast on Monday related to my audible.com ad. Number one, I got a lot of positive feedback on the ad, so nobody disliked it or hated the ad, but I had at least a handful of guys that were curious. They were like, well, Alan, I have what's known as YouTube Premium, which is what I have. And they said, I always thought that if you have YouTube Premium, that you wouldn't see any ads in the videos. That is actually true. Here's the deal. I'm going to try not to get too lengthy. If you've been following me for the last 5 years, since I've been on YouTube, I've always pointed out, I don't really make any money off of YouTube directly in the form of Google AdSense revenues. Why? In simple terms, because I have too much of a potty mouth. See, if you're a YouTube content creator, and you upload a lot of videos that contain a high degree of profanity and or sexually explicit language, YouTube doesn't really allow you to make money through Google AdSense. There might be 1 or 2% exceptions, but generally, if your videos contain a high degree of profanity and a high degree of sexually explicit language, YouTube will generally, extenuating certain exceptions aside, will usually prevent you from earning any Google AdSense money. The only possible other option you have is what's known as manually placed ads, which is what that ad in my last video podcast was. I had a manually placed ad. And when you have a manually placed ad, you don't really receive any money from YouTube via Google AdSense. You have to have an arrangement with that specific sponsor. The specific sponsor will usually pay you directly. Anywhere from usually, it could be as low as $10 to $15 per 1,000 views to as much as $50 to $75 per 100 views. But you have to set up an arrangement with that particular sponsor. What I'm doing is a trial run with audible.com. A trial run with audible.com to gain sponsorship. Now, even if they weren't to officially sponsor me, as long as people go to Audible and buy 1 or more of my audiobooks, I'm going to make money from the ad anyway. The only time I wouldn't make money from the ad is if people go to audible.com and buy somebody else's audiobook and don't buy any of my audiobooks. See, that's when I wouldn't make any money if I don't have an official sponsorship from them. But if these trial ads lead to me getting an official sponsorship, then I would make money either way. I would make money if people go to the site and buy 1 or more of my audiobooks, or if they go to the site and buy somebody else's audiobook. Get it? Got it? Good. But yeah, the agreement, in order to have a manually placed ad, you have to let YouTube know that.
I love Audible because it's a lot of stress relief. It's a great escape.
So many great stories from amazing people. It makes me want to be better.
It changes your perspective. It makes you a different person.
See what listening to Audible can do for you.
BuzzFeed.com recently produced a list of 10 of the best and most controversial audiobooks that have influenced single, heterosexual men all across the world in what is known globally simply as the manosphere. Here are the top 10 audiobooks mentioned. Free Agent Lifestyle by Coach Greg Adams. The Game by Neil Strauss. How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. Models by Mark Manson. Mode 1 by AlanRogerCurrie. The Mystery Method by Eric von Markovic. No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. The Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi. The Unplugged Alpha by Richard Cooper. And The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Also, a few additional books earned an honorable mention selection. Those audiobooks were Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert Glover. Dating Techniques in the 21st Century Social Media Age by Alpha Male Strategies. The Myth of Male Power by Dr. Warren Farrell. No Free Attention by AlanRogerCurrie. The Tactical Guide to Women by Dr. Sean T. Smith. The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. Please visit Amazon.com and Audible.com to learn more about these controversial but yet informative audiobooks authored by these various manosphere self-help gurus.
Yeah, the one requirement is you have to let YouTube know you're going to have a manual place ad so they can give a warning to the viewers so that if you have YouTube Premium, you won't be befuddled while you're seeing an ad. So what you should, like for this video, at the beginning, the very beginning, like in the first 3 to 5 seconds at the beginning of the video, there should be a pop-up that comes on your screen that says something to the effect of, this video contains a manually placed ad. I don't know if that's the exact wording, but it's something to that effect. Yeah, it gives you a little warning. It'll say this video contains a manually placed ad. So to answer the question, if I have YouTube Premium, why am I seeing ads? It's because it's a manually placed ad. For Audible.com. Speaking of Audible.com, if there's at least one of my 5 audiobooks that my sales have gone up over the last roughly 4 to 6 weeks, is No Free Attention. Yeah, No Free Attention. I would say at least 2 of my audiobooks have always had above average sales. Mode 1 has almost always had above average sales. Close second would be Ooh Say It Again. Matter of fact, there was like a 3-year period, starting with 2015, there was like a 3-year period where Ooh Say It Again was actually my best-selling audiobook over Mode 1. Yeah. Mode 1 has always been my best-selling paperback and my best-selling ebook. But when it comes specifically to audiobook, Ooh Say It Again, for a minimum of 3 years was my best-selling audiobook. Possibility of Sex has been erratic. It'll have some months where it sells well, other months where not so good. Beta Male Revolution is the same way. It'll have some months where it's, above average in sales and other months where it's below average. No Free Attention, again, out of my 5 audiobooks, is the audiobook that's been selling, that's increased a lot in sales over the last, I'd say, month and a half. Yeah, it's been, as I mentioned in my last video, do you know that's my only audiobook? I have literally no 1-star or 2-star ratings on Audible.com. Nope, I have no 1-star, 2-star reviews. The lowest rating I have on No Free Attention is a 3-star review. Yeah, because one person wrote that he felt like No Free Attention was just a repeat of the possibility of sex audiobook. That's not 100% true. And I pointed that out a couple times before. I would say that's kind of half true, half not true. There's some stories that are in the possibility of sex that are not in No Free Attention and vice versa. Remember when I was talking about that new follower of mine who was rating my 5 audiobooks and he mentioned that? Yeah, there's some stories that are in the possibility of sex that are not in No Free Attention. And there's a few things that are in No Free Attention that are not in the possibility of sex. But if I did have to compare it to my 4 other audiobooks, as I had one follower call it, he said, Alan, No Free Attention is your sampler platter. I don't know if you're familiar with this restaurant called Red Lobster, and there's probably a few other restaurants that have this, but I know Red Lobster has what they call a sampler platter, where if you undecided on buying the shrimp entree or the lobster entree or the salmon entree or the crab legs entree, they have a sampler platter that gives you a little bit of each of the other platters. Well, that's what I had at least one follower describe No Free Attention. This is how he described it. He said No Free Attention is 60% possibility of sex, 30% mode 1, 6% beta male revolution, and 4% who said again. That was his assessment. Yeah, he said No Free Attention is 60% possibility of sex audiobook, 30% mode 1 audiobook, 6% beta male revolution audiobook, and 4% who said again audiobook. I would generally agree with that. Yeah, I would actually generally agree with that. So there you go. Now, what I want to talk about today. Well, first of all, for my Patreon exclusive portion today, I'm going to introduce a new feature, even though it's not totally new, but it's just a new title. Now, I've reviewed movies before, so this definitely won't be my first time reviewing a movie, but I'm gonna make this a regular or at least semi-regular feature on my Patreon page, either regular or a semi-regular feature based on requests. I've had at least a handful of my Patreon subscribers request that I either regularly or at least semi-regularly review movies that have either a red pill and or manosphere related theme to it. A red pill and or manosphere related theme to it. The movie I'm going to be reviewing today in my Patreon exclusive portion is called Don't Worry, Darling. Don't Worry, Darling. I saw it yesterday. I got a few thoughts, good and bad, about it. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, if you're at least a $10 Patreon subscriber, stay tuned for my brief review of a movie called Don't Worry, Darling. Don't Worry, Darling. But here's what I want to talk about in the YouTube portion. This will be almost my second time in a row kind of diving into the area of celebrity gossip, which is something I don't normally like to do. First, it was Ime Udoka in the world of NBA basketball. Now we're moving to the world of NFL football. As you probably already know, Tom Brady, the legendary quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the National Football League, who used to be the legendary quarterback of the New England Patriots of the National Football League, is rumored to be headed towards divorce. Now, he hasn't 100% confirmed that, and his wife, Gisele Bunchkin, I think that's her last name, hasn't 100% confirmed that. But it has been confirmed that both of them have been consulting with divorce lawyers. And so I've had a few of my followers and supporters ask me for my opinion on their pending divorce. Here's the thing you gotta look at when you examine Tom Brady. He almost has it all, man. He almost has it all. I mean, compared to the average guy in society, what doesn't Tom Brady have? He's generally considered a very good-looking guy, not only by women, even men refer to Tom Brady as a good-looking guy. I remember Warren Sapp, who I've mentioned in a few videos, referred to him as one of the NFL's top pretty boys. So he got good looks. He's in a very masculine sport, which is football, American football. He has an exceptional degree of career success and achievements, career-related achievements, got 7 Super Bowl rings, makes a lot of money. He's a multimillionaire, both from playing and his endorsements. Got a supermodel, an international supermodel as a wife. And, a bunch of beautiful homes and material possessions. What doesn't he have? What doesn't he have? Most men can only dream of having what Tom Brady has in his life. Again, good looks, career success, wealth, fame, social status, beautiful, sexy wife, healthy children. You would think if you had all of that on your resume, that there would be almost a 0% chance that you would be unhappy or be experiencing marital problems. But he is. And where does it vindicate yours truly, AlanRogerCurrie? Here's where it vindicates me. As you know, I did at least 2, if not 3 videos earlier this year, somewhat related to this topic. I did one video called Being on Your Purpose Has Nothing to Do with Being Red Pill. That was back in March. I did a video called Being on Your Purpose Has Zilch to Do with Being Red Pill. If you listen to a lot of other dating coaches in the manosphere, PUAs and dating coaches, not all of them, but quite a few of them, they tend to emphasize this concept of being on your purpose. Being on your purpose. What does it mean to being on your purpose? Means usually one or more of these 3 things. If you're a college student, it means focusing on your academics so that you can get your degree. That's one aspect of being on your purpose, assuming you're a college student. Is focusing on your academics so that you can earn your degree. If you're out in the real world, it means focusing on constantly improving your career so that you can experience the highest degree of career success. And along with career success, to focus on achieving the highest degree of financial success that you possibly can. I would call that 2A and 2B. 2A and 2B. Education, 1. Career success and financial success, 2A and 2B. And then the third and final thing it means is focusing on something to do with your looks and your masculine sex appeal. Activities that relate to improving your looks and your masculine sex appeal. Like if you're overweight, focusing on losing weight. If you're too skinny, focusing on gaining muscle. Focus on better grooming and wearing better clothes, etc. All 3 of those things combined together represents being on your purpose. Being on your purpose. But one argument I made in a video earlier this year is that just because you focus on your purpose doesn't guarantee that you're going to have more successful women. It doesn't guarantee it. Is it likely? Is it possible / likely? Yes. It's possible to improve your success with women by focusing on your purpose, being on your purpose. But it's not 100% guarantee. Trust me, man, I've been a dating coach for over 20 years. I've known guys, many guys, I've had guys as clients who were highly educated, in possession of one or more college degrees, that still have problems attracting the interest of women and maintaining the interest of women. I've had guys who had a high degree of career success and financial success that still had problems attracting the interest of women and maintaining the interest of women. I've had guys who were tall, with athletic physiques, good-looking faces, well-groomed, that still had problems, either one of these two things, attracting the interest of the women that they desired and or maintaining the interest of the women that they were in relation. On a side note, that's the difference between dating. Most people know this already, but that's the difference between dating advice and relationship advice. Dating advice and relationship advice. Dating advice is when I'm giving you advice designed to help you attract the interest of a new and different companion, whether it's a long-term companion, short-term companion, monogamous companion, or non-monogamous companion. That's dating advice. When I'm giving you advice on how to attract the interest of a new and different companion. Relationship advice, again, as most people should already know, is when someone gives you advice that's designed to help you maintain the interest of someone you're already in a relationship with. Someone you're already in a long-term relationship with. That would simply be relationship advice. Most people already do that, but there's at least a small percentage of people that sometimes I hear them use dating advice and relationship advice almost interchangeably, like they're exact same thing. No, actually, when I used to write for the Examiner.com, I wrote a whole article just on that, and I got a lot of compliments on that article. Yeah, a lot of people tend to confuse and conflate those two. Yeah, there's a difference between dating advice and relationship advice. I would say between the two, and I think I mentioned this on just my last video, I give far more dating advice than I do relationship advice. I would say on average, probably only maybe 20% of my advice to men is representative of relationship advice. Now, I would say probably like 20% of the time do I offer men relationship advice. I say probably 80% of my advice is dating advice. Advice on attracting the interest of a new and different companion. And see, this is where guys get things wrong, man. Just because you're good looking doesn't guarantee that you're going to be able to maintain a relationship for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 plus years. Some men believe that if they have a good looking face and or a good looking physique and a high degree of masculine sex appeal, that automatically means they're going to be able to maintain the interest of a particular woman. Not true. Now, if you're good looking, if you got a good looking face, good looking physique, combination of both, have a high degree of masculine sex appeal, it will probably increase your ability, increase your number of selections, give you more women to choose from to be your companion. So in terms of attraction, attracting the interest of a woman, good looks can help. But when it comes to maintaining the interest of a woman, good looks and masculine sex appeal don't guarantee anything. Same with wealth, fame, material possessions, social status. I've heard some guys on various videos and live streams assert that if you have money, things like wealth, fame, social status, expensive material possessions, that you're more likely to maintain the interest of a girlfriend or a wife or some other form of a long-term romantic companion. That's not true. That's a damn lie. Again, Tom Brady is a classic example. Early this year, man, people keep calling me. Early this year, I talked about Johnny Depp, if you remember. I did a video in May in mid-May talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Johnny Depp had all those things, good looks, similar to Tom Brady. He had good looks, he had wealth, he had fame, career success, social status. And look how fucked up his marriage was. Look how fucked up his marriage was. Nothing guarantees you long-term relationship success or marriage success. There are factors that can contribute, increase your chances of maintaining a long-term romantic relationship or marriage. But there's nothing that acts as a 100% guarantee. A 100% guarantee. And that includes me. I'll include myself. As you know, I got married in mid-July of 2020. I've been married now for over 2 years. I can't guarantee that my marriage is going to last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 plus years if I live that long. I can't guarantee that. I can do everything within my control to contribute to my marriage, lasting a long time, but there's really nothing I can do to 100% guarantee that my marriage is going to last indefinitely. Just like Tom Brady couldn't. So what I'm going to do right now is tell you the top 5 reasons why most women are motivated to get married. I've done videos in the past where I talked about the motivations for men, the men who do choose to get married, why most men usually get married. I've already covered that at least a half a dozen times. But now I'm going to focus on why women get married. And at least 2 of these 5 reasons are related to Tom Brady and his current wife, Giselle. Tom Brady, and at least, I say at minimum, 2 of the 5 motivations I'm getting ready to present to you are related to Tom Brady's marriage to Giselle. Okay. All right. I'll start with reason number 1. Reason number 1. Marriage validates the appeal of a woman's non-sexual attention and companionship. Let me repeat that. Marriage validates the appeal of a woman's non-sexual attention and companionship. In other words, it lets a woman's friends, relatives, acquaintances, and the general public know that there is at least one man in her life who wants to share her company for more than just enjoyable and satisfying sex alone. I've talked about that in at least 2 of my 5 books. I know I talked about that in the Beta Male Revolution. I believe I talked about that in No Free Attention, and maybe even the possibility of sex, but I can't remember. I know for sure I touched on reason number 1 in the Beta Male Revolution and No Free Attention.
I love Audible because it's a lot of stress relief. It's a great escape.
So many great stories from amazing people. It makes me want to be better.
It changes your perspective. It makes you a different person.
See what listening to Audible can do for you.
BuzzFeed.com recently produced a list of 10 of the best and most controversial audiobooks that have influenced single, heterosexual men all across the world in what is known globally simply as the manosphere. Here are the top 10 audiobooks mentioned. Free Agent Lifestyle by Coach Greg Adams. The Game by Neil Strauss. How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. Models by Mark Manson. Mode 1 by AlanRogerCurrie. The Mystery Method by Eric von Markovic. No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. The Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi. The Unplugged Alpha by Richard Cooper, and The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Also, a few additional books earned an honorable mention selection. Those audiobooks were Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert Glover, Dating Techniques in the 21st Century Social Media Age by Alpha Male Strategies, The Myth of Male Power by Dr. Warren Farrell, No Free Attention by AlanRogerCurrie, The Tactical Guide to Women by Dr. Sean T. Smith, The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. Please visit Amazon.com and Audible.com to learn more about these controversial but yet informative audiobooks authored by these various manosphere self-help gurus.
That's the top reason why most women want to get married. I would say arguably more than any other reason. That's their number one motivation. Because marriage validates, you always hear me talk about, I was the first person in the manosphere that would always talk about the appeal of a man and woman's sexual companionship versus the appeal of their non-sexual attention and companionship. And then, of course, everybody and their mama start replicating that talking point. But, I like to point out when I was the first one. I really was. I was the first one in the manosphere to emphasize that point about distinguish between the appeal of a man or a woman's a sexual attention and companionship versus the appeal of their non-sexual attention and companionship. And related to that, that's women's number one motivation for marriage, man. And that allows me to segue into motivation number two. Motivation number two. Related to number one, it prevents a woman who is 36 years of age or older from being labeled a broke and or washed up and over the heel slut, a post-wall slut, or a lonely spinster. A broke, washed up, over the heel, post-wall slut, or a lonely spinster. Very few women in society want to move past the age of 40 without at least one marriage proposal under their belt and or without giving birth to at least one child. There's a few women that don't care about either one of those things, but they're in the minority. Most women do not want to reach their 40th birthday without having at least one man propose marriage to them and or without at least one man getting them pregnant. That's not as much opinion as it is facts. Most women, by no later than the age of 40, they want to be married by the age of 40. And if they don't get married, at minimum, they want at least one marriage proposal by the time they reach 40, so they can tell their friends, I had at least one guy who proposed marriage, but I turned him down. Or secondly, if marriage is not a priority, they want a child, at least one child by the time that they're somewhere between 36 and 40 years old. I know that from my many conversations with women. I told you, man, I told a lot of men, you want to know one of the number one times you're going to have a lot of women almost beg you to be what's known as a sperm donor? It could be technically at any age, but the number one age range, I've pointed this out before, is when a woman's between roughly 34 and 39. 34 and 30. Man, I've told y'all before, I've had at least 6 women in my life. I've had a half a dozen women in my life, all from that age group, that asked me, in some cases, literally begged me to be a sperm donor for them. Now, all the 6 women who asked me to be a sperm donor were women who were between 34 and 39. 34 and 39. That's when women get the most desperate for children if they don't have any already. That's the number one time a lot of women, particularly like career-oriented women, women who spent their early years focusing on their education and building their career, a lot of those women, when they get to the age of 30, somewhere between 34 and 39, they will many times beg guys to become a sperm donor. If you remember, I did an animated video about that.
You cannot handle the truth.
Try me.
My salary is more than twice what yours is. So I don't need you to financially support me. I own my own house, I own 2 cars, and my parents are wealthy.
Wow.
So, you are telling me that you do not want to have sex with me. You do like women, don't you?
I am very much a heterosexual. And I am not on the down low.
Well, start acting like the alpha male that I perceive you to be. Just agree to fuck me and help me make a baby.
What you are asking, Janet, goes against every principle I stand for. I do not support women giving birth to children without being married. I think children need 2 parents in the household. I was raised by both my mother and father.
Who are you, one of the Cosby kids? This is the 21st century, Jonathan. Get with the program.
Wow.
Remember that night you had a little bit too much to drink, and you had to stay over at my place instead of driving home. I could have taken advantage of you that night.
Are you saying you were tempted to date rape me?
I would not put it in those harsh, extreme terms. Just know, I could have already been pregnant with your baby, Jonathan.
Unfucking believable.
See, you used profanity. This is the first time I heard you curse. I knew you had a kinky, freaky side to you. That is the alpha male I am looking for to get me pregnant.
Janet, I am going to pray for you. You need spiritual guidance.
Sometimes, I do not know whether to slap you or drop to my knees and give you head. Speaking of blowjobs, can I give you head right now?
Janet, please. Why does everything in your world revolve around sex? Do you not see me for anything more than a sex object and a sperm donor?
If I want to talk about sports, I will call up one of my girlfriends. If I want to go shopping, I can call that same girlfriend. If I want career advice or financial advice, I can go to Linda or Angela. Shall I go on?
So, in other words, you are saying you really do not need a man in your life?
Male companionship is nice, but I am a woman who enjoys my own company. I do not really need a man. Do I want a man? Maybe. Do I need a man? Not hardly. Except for pleasurable orgasms and getting pregnant.
Wow.
So Jonathan, what do you say? Will you fuck me and get me pregnant?
This is the most mind-blowing conversation I have ever had with a woman in my entire life.
Can I take that as a yes?
No.
You know you want to.
No, I do not. So, you never wanted to fall in love. Walk hand in hand with a man you care for and stare in his eyes. You never wanted to find your soulmate?
Jonathan, I'm going to keep it real. I think you are attractive, and most of the time, I find you incredibly sexy. But sometimes, you just say things that make you sound so weak. Weak, 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 weak.
Wow.
Which was loosely based on my own experiences. Yeah, I've had at least 6 women that asked me and or begged me to be a sperm donor when they were between 34 and 39. So yeah, that's the second biggest reason why a lot of women want to get married, man. Most women, see, it's easy for a woman who's in her 20s and in some cases her early mid-30s to go around saying, oh, I don't care about getting married. I don't care about getting married. I don't need a man in my life. I don't need a man in my life. Watch a lot of those women change once they get to the no later than 34. I've had a lot of women who were close friends of mine, and in some cases, a couple of female relatives of mine that I saw them change in that regard. Like, I got one female cousin. When she was in her 20s, she used to be the type of woman that was like, marriage is not a top priority for me. I don't care if I get married. As soon as she got to about the age of 29, 30, she almost made a 180-degree change. Because again, man, no woman wants to be one of these two things. No woman wants to be considered. If the woman was fairly promiscuous in her 20s and early to mid 30s, no woman wants to grow old and have a reputation as a washed up, over the hill, post-wall slut. That's one of the worst reputations a woman could have. If there's one thing that's worse for a lot of women than having just simply a reputation as a slut, is having a reputation as a washed up, over the hill, post-wall slut. No, very few, if any, women want that reputation. Like, it's easy for a woman who's 23 years old and in her prime to say, I don't care if people call me a slut. I could care less. How many women have you known that are 43 instead of 23 saying that? Huh? How many women who are 43 instead of 23 saying that? Very few. Similar to not wanting to be labeled an over-the-hill, washed-up, post-wall slut is to be labeled a lonely spinster. A lonely, if you remember the late Kevin Samuels, that used to be one of his top talking points, was women becoming spinsters. I talk about that in Beta Male Revolution. In at least one of my chapters, I talk about the prospect of women who are 36 years of age and older becoming spinsters. If you own my book, The Beta Male Revolution. Yep. A spinster is any woman who is 40 years of age and older, who's never been married even one time and doesn't have any children. If you're a woman and you're 40 years of age or older and you've never been married and you don't have at least one child, that means you're a spinster. If you've been married at least once by the age of 40, but say you're now divorced, then you escaped being called a spinster. Or on the other hand, if you've never been married by the age of 40, but you got at least one child, you've escaped the label of spinster. But yeah, if you're 40 years of age or older and you've never been married at least once, and you don't have at least one child, that means you're a spinster. Like my mother told me, and I think I talk about this in the Beta Male Revolution, in my mother's generation, which is known as the silent generation, that was real big in my mother's generation. My mother told me that was almost every woman's goal, was to prevent themselves from being labeled a spinster when they got into their late 30s and early to mid 40s. She said no woman wanted to be labeled a spinster. No woman. That was just about every woman, part of every woman's motivation to get married was to prevent themselves from being known as a spinster. Now, moving on to reason number 3. Also related to number 1, motivation number 1, it gives a woman an opportunity to gain full and indefinite access to a man's non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. Let me repeat that. Also related to motivation number 1, it gives a woman an opportunity to gain full and indefinite access to a man's non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. The vast majority of women get married more so to guarantee themselves full and indefinite access to a man's non-sexual attention and companionship than that man's sexual attention and companionship. Now, this is the first reason that I would say is related to the Tom Brady Giselle situation. Giselle, if you know about Giselle's background, she don't need Tom Brady for money. So, anybody who thinks she married Tom Brady for his money, do you know, I read an article that it said for all but 3 years of their marriage, she made more money than Tom Brady. Believe it or not. Yeah, she's one of the world's most famous supermodels. There's only been 3 years during their marriage where Tom Brady made more money than his wife. All the other years, she made more money than him. So she ain't with him for his money. One of the reasons why Giselle or any woman marries a guy is they want full and indefinite access to that guy's non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. Tom Brady, he's so dedicated to his career because he's so competitive. I was talking about that in my very last video. People who are ultra competitive. Michael Jordan, ultra competitive. Tiger Woods, ultra competitive. Kobe Bryant, ultra competitive. Tom Brady, ultra competitive. Professional athletes who are ultra competitive are, figuratively speaking, married to their careers, which means he's probably, throughout the course of the year, he's away from home more than he is at home, which probably frustrates the shit out of her. Because a lot of women, like I've talked to a lot of women who had husbands who travel a lot for business. They travel a lot. Like some of the women, when I was younger, honestly, that I used to have sex with who happened to be married, that was their situation. They had a husband who traveled a lot. Women get frustrated when they don't have access to their husbands or boyfriends, non-sexual time. I'm going to tell you something. I've said this a number of times before. I say it in a couple of my books. Many women can go longer without their boyfriend, fiance, or husband's sexual companionship than they can without their boyfriend, fiance, or husband's non-sexual attention and companionship. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah, I would say there are more women who can go longer without their boyfriend, fiance, or husband's sexual attention and companionship than they can without their boyfriend, fiance, or husband's non-sexual attention and companionship. Again, that's over half the reason why most women get married. And so they can secure a man's non-sexual attention and companionship. Women don't need marriage to secure a man's sexual attention and companionship. They really don't. No woman needs to be married to a guy in order to secure his sexual access to his sexual companionship. A woman can remain single and secure access to a man's sexual companionship. But yeah, I really think that that's one of the major reasons that contributed to Giselle's frustration in their marriage. And she was frustrated by her lack of access to Tom's non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. Moving on to motivation number 4, why a lot of women want to get married. If a woman has not created any type of career success for herself or any type of financial success for herself, marriage is an opportunity to have the quality of her lifestyle improved and upgraded by a man who is wealthy and financially and materialistically generous. This can also be achieved via a common law marriage, cohabitation, and or a sugar daddy, sugar baby relationship, but it offers a bit more guarantees and permanence via legalized marriage. Now, again, as it relates to Tom and Giselle, you can scratch this as a motivation because Giselle got her own money. She got her own career. She didn't need Tom for an upgrade in her lifestyle. She didn't need Tom for an upgrade in her lifestyle. She could have had that on her own. But for the average woman, there's a lot of women who are not career oriented. They don't have a lot of their own financial success. Like you got women like Kim Kardashian, she got her own money. There's a lot of other female celebrities that have their own money. But for the average woman in society, a lot of women, there's a lot of good-looking, sexy women that without a financially generous man in their life, they'd be a broke ass, probably slut or whore. Real talk, I'm just putting it blunt. If they didn't have either a husband, or if not a husband, at minimum a sugar daddy in their life, they'd be a broke, promiscuous slut. And what woman wants to be a broke, lonely, promiscuous slut? Really? What woman wants to spend most of her life being a broke, romantically and emotionally lonely, promiscuous slut? Very few. Very few. That's why even porn stars, a lot of female porn stars look to get married. A lot of former prostitutes, former call girls, former escorts look to get married as they get older. No woman wants to spend the rest of her life as a broke, romantically and emotionally lonely, promiscuous slut. So yeah, line of women, if they don't really have anything going on in the area of education, a good career, or above average income, of course they're going to try to latch on to a man, again, who is wealthy and financially and materialistically generous. That's been going on for centuries. And finally, motivation number 5 for why many women seek out marriage. If a woman strongly desires to raise her children in a 2-parent household until her children are at least 21 years of age or older, and she wants to take on the last name of her husband, marriage is the ideal co-parenting arrangement. Some women don't mind raising one or more children by themselves. A lot of those women who call themselves independent. But many women, they want more than just financial support in the form of child support when it comes to raising children. Facts. This is the second most reason I would say that's related to the Tom Brady Giselle situation. I think from reports I've read, Giselle, she wants Tom Brady to retire from football so she can have more help in raising their children. He's not there most of the year. At least 6 or more months of the year, he's away from the household. She wants a guy that's going to help her raise children. And another reason, I think she wants to go off and do her own thing career-wise. She feels like she sacrificed her career for Tom's career. Now she wants it to be vice versa. She wants him to be at home with the kids while she does her own supermodel thing. But yeah, going back to the average woman in society, a lot of women, man, don't want to raise children. Now, again, you got some independent types that feel like they can raise a son or a daughter by their damn self. But most women that I know personally, they don't want to raise children by themselves. My wife is in that category. My wife is in that category. And I'm in that category as a man. Man, if I had to raise my son Caden by myself, man, I would be stressed out. I ain't gonna even lie. I would be stressed out if I had to raise my son by myself. And my wife has expressed many times she would be stressed out if she had to raise Caden by herself. I did a video where I told her, see, you need to read that book called Marriage, a History. Marriage, a History. The author, she breaks stuff down in that book. And when I get into a long digression, man, that was one of the early motivations, man, for marriage, man, is so you could have 2 people to assist in raising a child, man. For a lot of both men and women, it's very challenging to raise children by yourself. It's very challenging. For many women, it's very challenging for them to raise children one or more children by themselves. For many men, it's very challenging for them to raise one or more children by themselves. Again, I know for a fact, I would go crazy if I had to raise my son, particularly being this young, like he's 2 years old. Man, I would go crazy if I had to raise my son by myself. And again, I know my wife feels the same way. So that's the 5th most motivation for why women want marriage, is so that they can raise their children in a healthy, emotionally healthy, 2-parent household. Instead of doing the baby mama, baby daddy scenario where the biological mother's in one residence and the biological father's in a totally different residence. Some people are able to work that out for them. And for those who are able to work it out that way, more power to them. I wouldn't be able to. And I know a lot of men and women who that scenario wouldn't work for them. So that's my assessment on the Tom Brady Giselle situation and the top 5 motivations for why many women seek out marriage. Now I'm going to transition into my Patreon exclusive portion where I'm going to be reviewing the movie that has some red pill / manosphere themes to it called Don't Worry, Darling. If you're a Patreon subscriber, stay tuned.
I love Audible because it's a lot of stress relief. It's a great escape.
So many great stories from amazing people. It makes me want to be better.
It changes your perspective. It makes you a different person.
See what listening to Audible can do for you.
BuzzFeed.com recently produced a list of 10 of the best and most controversial audiobooks that have influenced single, heterosexual men all across the world in what is known globally simply as the manosphere. Here are the top 10 audiobooks mentioned. Free Agent Lifestyle by Coach Greg Adams. The Game by Neil Strauss. How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. Models by Mark Manson. Mode 1 by AlanRogerCurrie. The Mystery Method by Eric von Markovic. No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. The Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi. The Unplugged Alpha by Richard Cooper. And The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Also, a few additional books earned an honorable mention selection. Those audiobooks were Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert Glover. Dating Techniques in the 21st Century Social Media Age by Alpha Male Strategies. The Myth of Male Power by Dr. Warren Farrell. No Free Attention by AlanRogerCurrie. The Tactical Guide to Women by Dr. Sean T. Smith. The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. Please visit Amazon.com and Audible.com to learn more about these controversial but yet informative audiobooks authored by these various Manosphere self-help gurus.